Bare hands in the soil, skirt hem catching dew, laughter like a brook running straight through you. Kettle on a stone, steam curls in the breeze, three women round the roses talking to the leaves. So it's February. It is 56 degrees outside, and we have had minimal rain, snow, any moisture whatsoever. So it's been kind of a tough season. I mean, I love the warm, don't get me wrong, but it's the wrong time of year. I actually
Yeah,
did see a baby grasshopper yesterday. I know. It's like, you
that's
guys are out
crazy.
already?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm
Shoot.
afraid is, the insects are emerging, but we're going to get really cold in a
In
day.
the next couple of days, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. I went out today and sprinkled some just meadow wildflower seeds where I'm trying to
Hmm. Yeah.
rebuild some stuff from the construction with the idea that we're gonna get a bunch of snow that's gonna absorb
Wish they
that
keep
into the ground.
they keep revising it down though, so I'm a little bit nervous about that. But
Oh,
I
shoot.
suppose we should start. Here in the garden of the green women, roots in the earth, hearts opening. We sow our stories with the seeds we're given, and everything grows again. Hey everyone, welcome to Get Off My Lawn. I am Ann Reber,
And I'm Shelly Partis.
and we are in February now. It's really warm out there, which don't get me wrong, I love the warm, but I'm actually pretty nervous that we are not going to get anything as far as a winter this year, and a lot of plants and insects need that.
Oh yeah, it's been crazy. This weekend we were running around in just long sleeve shirts
Hmm.
and all of that, and just kind of worried about the um, watering, which, what, like, should I be watering things or not? Plus, we have this new puppy,
Oh,
and it's super muddy out,
hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a worry. Is that going to turn into a big fire season?
Drought.
How will the gardens do um,
Hmm.
with the never-ending drought situation?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've just pretty much come to the conclusion that we are in desert at this point here.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's been, I guess, nice. So spring is around the corner. Even though it feels like it's spring now, it's still coming because we're going to have a little bit of a cold spell.
Right.
We still have a lot of prep to do before spring really gets here. So right now, we've top dressed our lawn,
Hmm.
seeded, put compost down. This week, I'm going to go pick up boards so I can start building some more raised beds. Actually, the ground is still frozen in a lot of spots, which is good, especially around our trees, because we don't want them waking up yet. I hear
Right.
that Missoula, they're having that problem is the trees buds are swelling, and once they break that kind of hard shell, they're very susceptible to the cold. So that's what happened that one year. Remember all those cherry trees got
Right.
nuked up in Kalispell?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do remember
So,
that.
but there is something you do need to be watering, and that's your little pine trees. Baby
Yeah.
pine trees need water.
Yeah,
So
and
we have.
I did
Hmm.
plant some ponderosa pines up along the road area last
Yeah.
year, and so I did actually give them a shot of water this weekend, a bucket of
Hmm.
water, not a shot,
Yeah.
bucket of water. Yeah, and it is kind of nice. I will say the warmer weather is kind of nice for all of the prep work, cleaning garden tools, getting them organized and figuring out what's going on. I'm going to be putting together, hopefully this week, a couple new raised beds as well to put into the garden. And I can actually dig into some of the ground a little bit,
Hmm.
at least at the moment. So I might actually even start working on some of my landscaping with the wall rock. So I've got all of that stuff going on outside, where normally I'd be focused more on the inside right now, right? What the
Oh
getting
yeah.
the things going on inside. How about you?
Yeah, our neighbor just dropped off a bunch of big rocks out by our road for us to do something with, but we have to figure out how to move them because they're way too big for that. Oh, I'm also baking the last of my delicata squashes. So
Oh,
last fall, we had two plants, and each plant gave us, like, I swear to God, 15 squashes. So
hmm
I've been making some each week, and we are almost out of them. I figure that that's a great return on our investment
yeah,
because
that's
they
true.
lasted all winter.
Right.
And we got about, I want to say about 20, 30 pounds of potatoes left too out of our three raised beds. So that's I think really good for, just having food that we
Yeah.
grow and lasting. How about you? Were you able to?
Right, yeah. So I have, what do I have left? I mean, the biggest thing that we had was, as far as a return, was the garlic, right?
Mhm.
And so I have 2 cloves of garlic left. That's where I'm
Oh,
at
I
with
can hook you
garlic.
up with some
You can hook me up with
some
some
more.
garlic. And I actually gave some away, so I actually probably had
Hmm.
had more than that. So we have garlic. I have one butternut squash left that I had harvested. That actually seems to be keeping really well
Yeah,
over the
squash does.
and I still have a couple pumpkins. I mean, if you want a pumpkin, I can hook you
Oh,
up.
I have so much pumpkin in my
Yeah,
freezer.
that's right. I remember the pumpkin puree. So, from as far as what's kept well for me, and again, we didn't have quite as successful garden yet. I think this year's going to be better. But really, the garlic kept really well. It's been, um, no worries. It cured, must have cured it properly, and it's kept
Hmm.
really well. And then the squash and pumpkins have done really well. So I'm looking forward to growing more of that. Um,
Yeah.
along with all the other things I've planned. So
Oh, speaking of plans, have you gotten your seeds yet?
I do. I have a plethora of seeds. I've actually started some already. How about you? Have you?
We
Probably a
have,
little early, but that's me.
yeah, yeah, we haven't really started anything yet, except we got some baby trees that we're gonna
hmm
try, some baby hackberry, or we got hackberry seeds. We're gonna try and see if we can get them to germinate. And there's some other pines, I think. So we've got that, but we haven't started like tomatoes yet or anything like that. We probably will start them soon, but it's only February, so we
Well,
don't want to.
I know it's only
Mhm.
February, but like I said, I think the last couple of podcasts, my goal this year is to kind of get some staples going, right? Like
Yeah.
onions, potatoes, that type of thing. And then I was gonna hold off on doing any hot peppers, but then I started making my salsa again, and I decided,
Mhm.
oh, I want to try. I'm gonna try it one more time. And there's a couple of the types of peppers have a pretty long grows.
Yeah,
What's it
grow
called?
period or
Have a long, yeah, long growth period. So I started onion seeds,
Mhm.
which they say end of February. So I'm maybe a week early or so, but end of February. And then I started my habaneros and my Anaheim peppers because they have the longest period, and see if I can
Yeah.
extend that grow time
Hmm.
a little bit
Yeah.
longer. So that was what I've started so far. And the one thing I read about the pepper seeds, I don't know if you knew about this, is that especially the hotter peppers, it's better to start them in bigger pots because they don't transplant very well, or they don't like to
Oh, okay.
transplant very well. So if
Hmm.
anybody's struggling out there with hot peppers, especially after transplanting them, I just started them in a bigger pot,
There you go.
or just to see if that makes it easier. So that rather than potting up over the next 2 to 3 months, I'll hopefully not have to do that more than maybe once and then get them in the ground. So
Hmm.
that was kind of the plan.
Yeah,
Um,
we've got some massive pots that we're gonna start our pumpkins in.
okay.
So we'll have to wait for the weather to be done with, well, hopefully freezing before
hmm
we're gonna go down that route. But like you said, the bigger the pot, the less you need to transplant. So,
Yeah. So how do
um,
you
mhm.
start seeds? I sent you, did you get that link I sent you?
I did, and I started watching it, and then I got interrupted. So you
Oh,
want to give me the overview?
yeah, so we were just scrolling through
Hmm.
YouTube watching gardening videos, and I came across this method for starting seeds. It's called the snail method. And
Okay.
the reason it's called the snail method is that you take some type of material and you basically put a layer of soil or potting mix or seed starting mix on it, and then you roll it up like a snail and you plant the seeds in
Mm-hmm.
this spiral. And
Okay.
what it does a couple things. One, it's a space saver. So if you don't have a lot of space to, have your seed starts and have all of the
Mm-hmm.
little cells and different things like that, you can plant several plants in like a little 3 to 4 inch diameter
Yeah.
snail roll up. It's almost looks like a sushi roll up. It's kind of funny.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the other advantage is you can make it fairly deep. So
Mm-hmm.
the roots will grow fairly deep. And so that's kind of neat. And so you put the layer down, you put the soil on there, you roll it up, and then you can put like some tape or depending on what material you use, rubber bands or something to hold it together. And then you plant the seeds along the spiral. And then
Wow.
as they grow, you can unroll them, add more soil if you need, or you can put them in a bigger pot or just put them straight in the ground from there. But it was really interesting. It looked like it was something we might try it with a couple
Yeah.
different plants and see how it goes. But yeah,
Huh.
uses less soil for one.
Uh-huh.
Uses less soil, retains moisture better depending on which method you use.
Mm-hmm.
Less space.
Yeah, that's always
Space
good.
is a big issue for me. So yeah,
Yeah. Well, I'll have to watch that video and then maybe give it a shot.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm
Not
gonna
that I'm
try it.
hurting for space, but I think it'd be fun to try different things.
Well, and I like the
So,
idea of not needing as much soil for it, right?
right.
It's almost, especially if you use, there's one where you can use like bubble wrap with
Mm-hmm.
parchment paper. So you use it, the parchment to make the layers so you don't have the plastic against the soil and all of that.
Okay.
So it really retains the moisture
Mm-hmm.
content there. It gives it some insulation, just kind of built-in insulation because of that. I suppose if you use
Okay.
corrugated cardboard, it would be similar. But
Yeah.
the whole thing was really kind of interesting to me. So, yeah,
That sounds cool. I'll have to
yeah,
look into that.
yeah. So
So,
trees. What trees are you planting this year? Ann, what's your plan?
well, we've got some more pines coming because it's not all of the ones that we planted last year survived. We had some that just absolutely quit for no reason, and I have no idea why because I checked the water levels. It was getting as much water as the other trees around it, and it was getting all the same nutrients. So I
Hmm.
got nothing. So we got a couple to replace there. We got to replace some of the crabs out by the road, crab apples. They just aren't doing well. And we're going to plant some more in the orchard itself. So we got some exciting new apples that I cannot remember the names right off the top of my head because they're just kind of weird, obscure apples that you never hear about in the store. So
Hmm.
we'll give those a shot. And we're also going to plant some more pears because, interestingly enough, the pear trees do very well here.
Huh.
So, yeah, I know, right? It's like, huh, I don't, you usually don't think about pears in an orchard, but
Right.
yeah, our pear trees seem to like it and they're growing well. So we're going to add more.
I have a couple of pear trees in my garden area that
Mm-hmm.
oh no, wait. Are they pear? No, they're plums. Sorry. Disregard that.
Plums are good too. We have more plums coming
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So I tried to dig out one of our dead trees and the ground's frozen. So I'm gonna have to wait for the
Mm.
ground to thaw before I can get out there and keep digging. We're also gonna plant a couple more bur oaks because I love bur oaks. They're so pretty. It's so fun to plant trees because,
Hmm.
well, except for when they get eaten by gophers, but
Yeah.
that's a different problem. They're just fun to have, especially if you don't have trees, because out here it's just bare, just
Right.
grass. You have to protect them from deer. I do not understand how anybody managed to raise a tree
Right.
without a fence. It's like, holy cow, how did that tree survive deer? It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, how about you?
Yeah, I'd actually like to try to figure out a kind of tree to plant along the road to
Mm-hmm.
create a little bit of a windbreak, but I also want to make sure I don't block too much sun. So I'm trying to figure out what could be a
Like
good
a
option
bush, maybe?
there. Maybe more of a bush or a dwarf
Uh-huh.
tree or something that
Oh,
doesn't get too tall so there can be enough
mm-hmm.
sun. But again, yeah, it's trying to keep it alive, and that's super steep right there, right? So I did plant some blue bunch wheatgrass
Okay.
along the side there, trying to get rid of somebody hit way back had planted this other type of grass that's I don't know, it's invasive, it's not native, it's just kind of
Mm. Mm-hmm.
ugly. It's a
Yep.
type of wheatgrass of some kind, but somebody thought it was a good idea and is just really not very nice. So I'm trying to overtake that with some other things. But I
Okay.
think I need something that has more root structure to it. So besides just flowers and grass, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to figure out. I have my aspens. We'll see if they survived the winter. I don't know. They weren't looking great at the end of the summer last year, so we'll see how they're doing. But I did have, like I said, I did go walk around and check out my ponderosa pines. They're those little baby seedlings
Yeah.
that I got,
Uh-huh.
and there's at least a few that are still alive and survived. So that would be kind of nice. I mean, just to add to the trees that we already have there, but
Oh
yeah, I'd
yeah.
just
Yeah.
like
Can
to
never
get
have
that.
too many trees.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So how about your
Yeah.
tools? You got your tools ready to go, you said?
Yeah, I started pulling those out. I need to clean them up
Mm-hmm.
a little bit. My favorite tool, I was going to ask you about that actually. My favorite tool is this, it's a handheld and it's got a rake on one end and it's got a, what do you call
A
it?
hoe on the other?
Hoe on the other side.
Yeah. I know
And
exactly what you're talking about. I don't
yeah,
remember what it's called though. Shoot.
it's got Japanese writing on it and I'm
Yeah.
sure it's got some kind of name that matches that. But I love that tool. But last year the handle split, so I need to get a new
Mm-hmm.
handle for it. But just trying to clean everything up and get it tidy. I've taken advantage of the warmer weather to do some
Yeah.
of that. I have a lot of plans to do more wall rock and landscaping, helping to deal with
Erosion.
erosion. Thank you, just helping to deal with erosion and working on some of my paths. That's going to be a big part of what I'm going to be building over the next year. I've got a few different areas that I'm going to work on trying to just build that soil up so it's not just a big muddy mess every
Mm-hmm.
spring, having some ways where you can work around and walk around uh,
Yeah.
in there. So that tool, though, is great for that because it helps me carve out the spots
Mm-hmm.
to put the wall rock.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I would have to say my favorite tool is either a spade, because I'm always digging stuff up, it feels
Hmm.
like, or a big garden fork too. And not a
Oh,
pitchfork, but
yeah.
the garden fork. Yeah, they've got the flat tines.
Hmm.
I use that so much because it's really nice to bust up roots of grass and
Hmm.
stuff with the garden fork, and then, or even the spade too. Keep your spade nice and sharp.
Yeah.
And then, like for the vegetable gardens, I have one of those tools which I do not remember the name. We'll have
We'll
to
have
look
to
it
look
up
it
and come
up,
back.
yeah.
Yes. But yeah, that comes in so handy too. Just to be able to rip through weeds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That makes it really easy. I was also thinking, in addition to tools, like, do you have boots and gloves and stuff like that? What do you wear when you're gardening?
Well, I have some really great muck boots. They're
Hmm.
short though. They're not like the traditional muck boots are go up to your knees, but
Yeah.
I got some that are just they're not shoes, they're just a little bit higher, so they're like
Hmm.
kind of have the height of
Booties.
like a yeah, like a hiking boot or something like that.
Hmm.
So those are my favorites. I still have those from last year, so I'll just keep wearing those. But I can't find my box of gloves,
Oh no.
garden gloves. So I'm sure
Hmm.
it's in the garage somewhere. I've been starting to pull stuff out and it's in a box somewhere
Hmm.
that I mean, I did find a pair, but it's not the ones that I like. So
Oh yeah.
I have certain ones that I like for in the spring, late winter, early spring because they're more waterproof and your hands don't
Hmm.
get all wet and all of that. And then others that
So
we're
you
working with
prefer
rock.
like the more rubbery rather than the cloth or leather or
Yes, yeah,
okay.
for that time of year, right? Because it
Hmm.
feels like it gets really cold, and if your hands get cold, then
Yeah.
it's you're kind of screwed, right? You can't really do anything. But then as it warms up, I actually like the ones that have the leather. I do like the ones that have the leather and the cloth because then they breathe better.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I don't know about you, but the skin on my hands gets so dry when I'm
Hmm.
digging out in the soil, even with gloves on, it feels like.
Right.
So yeah, that'll sap the moisture right out of your skin. But hey, that's what lotion's for.
That's right. Although I need to be better about wearing gloves because it does dry out
Hmm.
your skin a lot. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Also hats. Have to wear a garden hat.
that's
Otherwise,
right.
otherwise my face gets fried if I don't wear a hat. So, but yeah, the big straw-brimmed hats, those are nice to be wearing in the garden. The only issue I have is because it's so windy out here, the wind
It blows it
either
up.
pushes it down or up. So I'm blind or strangled because the string around your neck it's like having a wind sail around your neck.
Yeah, I haven't found
So,
a wide brimmed hat that I love yet, so I
mhm.
tend to just throw on a baseball cap. One of the things that we're talking about doing is building a small, like 4 by 4 foot greenhouse that can go
Mhm.
along the side of the house where that patio is, where the
Yeah.
big retaining wall is, and then there's that patio. And we're looking at potentially putting something in there. And right now, what I have is some shelves where I throw all my stuff that I'm using that I
Mhm.
want easy access to. So I'm going to try to move all of that stuff up into the garden area and organize that. And I want to get some type of rack or some kind of way to organize those tools a little bit better in that
Yeah.
area. Yeah.
I have a pegboard in my garage that when I put it up, it's like, okay, I'm going to have all my tools right there so I can see them, and I don't put them back. I
They just
am bad.
they end up well, that's what this corner has ended up being in, but if we end
Hmm.
up putting a greenhouse there, they won't be able to go there. I guess they could go in the greenhouse, but it's not good. We're not talking a huge giant greenhouse, so it's going to have to go
Yeah.
somewhere else. But yeah, they end up like in the corner of the
In a
garden.
corner.
Yeah,
Yes.
leaning against a tree,
Uh-huh.
whatever. But I always like to start off organized at the beginning of the
I
summer.
like to pretend I'm organized, and then
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that ain't happening.
You know what other tool that I really like living on a hill is
Hmm.
this I got one of those broad forks. Do you have one of
Oh
those?
yeah. Uh-huh.
Because it's really hard if you really want to dig up earth. The broad fork works really well. I mean, as long as the ground's not too hard. If it's really hard, then it's
Yeah.
going to be pretty difficult. And then I have these little auger
Hmm.
things that you can get in there and use a power drill to dig up the earth a little bit and loosen it up. And then I
Oh,
use the
okay.
broad fork. And so I found that that's really nice, especially being on a hill because you can't get a rototiller, or it's just literally not safe to be,
Yeah.
up there with a machine digging up the ground.
Hmm.
Those are good tools that I've found to work.
So when you do your paths, do you put like weed barrier down, or are you just putting like pavers and stuff? How are you doing your paths?
Well, I've got one that I did and one that I didn't. And
Hmm.
I don't really love the weed barrier underneath it. I think I'm going to move away from that. Maybe I'll ask you about that. The one path I used, I just dug it up and I put pavers down and then small rocks around it and I just filled it in. And it's pretty hard clay. So
Okay.
and last year I wasn't keeping up on it because we were dealing with the sinkhole and all of that kind of stuff, so
Hmm.
that's on my list to clean that up and really get that lined out and create a border with some of the wall rock and stuff like that around there. Uh, but no, there's no barrier other than the rocks and the pavers.
Okay.
The other side, I did put fabric down and then I put wood chips and mulch down,
Hmm.
but it just slides off.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So because we're on a hill, so it's not a nice
Hmm.
flat path. I suppose if you had a nice flat path, that would work great, but I just
So
don't know.
I put weed barrier down on that path in front of my house, but grass finds a way to like take root in the mulch on top of it.
Hmm.
So that's annoying. It's like, what am I barriering against if the grass just grows
Hmm.
right over the top of it? So I'm trying to figure out a better way to do that. So I was just interested in how you were going to handle your paths since you mentioned that you're going to be working on those this
Yeah,
spring.
so my plan on the one side where I tried to use the fabric,
Hmm.
I did some research and I think what I'm gonna try is cardboard, lay cardboard down,
Hmm.
um, and then wet that down really good, and then put the mulch on top. And
Yeah.
then what I've read, I mean, it does require some maintenance, so that's going to mean next year I'll have to rake up the mulch, put more cardboard down,
Hmm.
you know, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's the thing with the weed barriers is I think it's not great for the soil, for one, that's
No. Hmm.
underneath, and I think you're right, it's like maybe I just need to figure out a way to just work with whatever grass or whatever's trying to grow around there instead of
Yeah.
and
So I
creating
think I'm gonna,
borders maybe. So yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
I think I'm gonna work with pavers this time.
Mhm.
But so right up against the house, though, I have to have the weed fabric because we
Mhm.
don't want weeds growing up right up next to the house since,
Mhm.
fire risk. So we're just gonna have fabric around that. And then I have been using fabric around trees too to prevent weeds from coming up right next to the trees and competing with their water sources. So though I've noticed last year, so I put fabric around some of the trees last year, and they're actually looking really good. So it's helping to retain water, which is interesting.
Okay.
Um, so I'm going to do some more experimentation with that and see where we where the best places to have the fabric down
Mhm.
and go run with that then. So yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm going to do on my trees as well is create a little
Hmm.
bit more of a I'm going to try to manicure it a little bit more instead of just going crazy wild and just
Hmm.
kind of create circles around there that are clear. And I haven't decided if I'd put down fabric or just mulch it just to keep it
Yeah.
a little bit more protected now that they're starting. They survived their
Hmm.
first year of being thrown to the wolves, and now maybe I'll baby them a little bit and see how they do. So I think one thing I'm going to try to do is instead of trying to create a barrier where I don't want things to grow, is dig things out and create a border that
Hmm.
hopefully keeps everything else out and then just mulch over that. And that's where I'm trying to. But I might put cardboard down because that kind of helps at least a little bit
Yeah.
in the.
I did a lot of that too back in the day when I was trying to control weeds in certain areas. Like we'd have a patch of white top here or cheatgrass over here. So I would just lay a bunch of cardboard down and it did help, but everything got burned up in the fire. So I stopped
Hmm.
doing that. Maybe someday I'll go back to that. But the fabric is what we're running with at this point. Well, so we're seeing how that goes.
Oh, I'd also like to get a wood chipper, but my wish list is getting pretty long. But my friend Ann has one that I can borrow if I really need to.
Yes,
And
yes.
we
Anytime
have,
you need it.
willow trees have a growth hormone in them, so they work really
Mhm.
well for mulching around plants, right? So like if you want
Right.
to, certain types of plants, if you want to
Hmm.
mulch around certain types of plants, um, like asparagus, strawberries, those are all really good ones to use that for. Um, that's why I want a wood chip because we have a big giant willow tree in our neighbor's yard that is just like overtaking the east side of our house. So we're gonna
Yeah.
chop a bunch of the branches, which probably will make them not happy, but that's
Uh, it's on your property.
yeah.
So we have willows down by our creek,
Mhm.
and in the spring, before they leaf out, I'll go out and cut the tips or like this much off the ends of a bunch of them and then soak it in water. And if I have trees that have been struggling or like gophers have gotten after them or something like that, so they need that little extra help, I'll just water the trees with that willow
Oh,
water.
interesting.
Yeah, and that seems to help them a lot.
Yeah.
So
I
if you
thought that
need,
was yeah, that's a great idea. I thought that was interesting the idea behind the growth enzyme that's in them. It makes sense when
Mhm.
you think about willow trees because they grow so
Yeah,
fast, right? Like
yeah.
they just like that's why people they love them. I have a love-hate relationship with that tree because
Hmm.
it's so beautiful, but there's branches everywhere. Like, they
Oh
just
yeah.
it's just like a
Uh-huh. And they
so
spread.
yeah. So might as well
Yeah.
try to use them,
Yeah.
get some good
Put
out
them to
of them.
work.
So, yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But that's what I do. If I've got trees that need a little extra help, I'll just take a 5 gallon bucket of water, throw a whole bunch
Mhm.
of those willow tips in, just soak it for a day or two, and then water the tree with that.
Nice.
So that all that.
What other maintenance do you have that you might be needing to do on your watering systems that you have right now?
So I'm trying to set up a way to water the orchard that doesn't waste water. So what we have is we have drip tape, and I've got a lot of drip tape. And what I'm doing is every 3 to 4 feet, I'm going to run a line of drip tape. So it's all hooked up to a main pipe, and then it's going to water the orchard like directly on the soil. So I'm not flinging water everywhere and losing it to evaporation.
Hmm.
So I'm still working out the logistics of that. And that I think is what I'm happiest with. I have drip tubing around the trees themselves individually, but the ground beneath or the ground between the trees where there's no
Hmm.
drip tubing gets really dry. So what I need to do is start that drip tape, which just eases water into the soil. And so we'll get plants growing along that tape. And
Hmm.
then that as that shades the soil, more plants will, keep growing around that. So hopefully we can get a nice, healthy
Hmm.
uh, orchard base, plants and flowers and stuff like that for pollinators. It's always about
Yeah,
pollinators.
that's right.
But overall, we do have very focused watering systems. We don't like to waste water. You're
Hmm.
not going to find like big sprayers on my property, at least anymore. I used to, but then just too much water goes to waste. How about you?
Yeah, so I use a lot of drip tape. The only
Mhm.
sprinklers that we really have are on Mike's little patch of grass that I've let him maintain. And honestly, when it gets hot in the summertime, he has to water that every single day. It's
Yeah.
you know, and
Hmm.
what I've found is the drip tape's great. We've got a lot of ground cover going now with the clover and
Hmm.
some other types of ground cover that I really didn't have to water a lot. It just keeps the ground moist, and it's usually pretty happy
Hmm.
using that. I do think I'm going to need to pull because I want to clean up some areas that I let go last year because of getting the vegetable
Yeah.
garden set up and all of that. I'm going to take advantage of that opportunity to pull all the drip lines up and find a better layout for them.
Hmm.
And I'd like to get a timer. So, like, if we're going to be gone, or just so you don't have to think about it quite as much, to make sure that it's getting a good steady drink at least 2 to 3 times a week is my
Yeah.
goal. If it's watered well and you have the right kind of plants, at least this is what I've been reading, and you mulch properly. Most things don't need to be watered every day, except for when they're
Yeah.
first starting out, which could be done by hand, right? So
Hmm.
that's my plan for the watering, and the hillside's really done pretty well. I'd like to figure out how I could get water on the other side of the driveway, but that's maybe phase 8. Like 3 or 4 years from now, it's not a high priority for me. So,
Oh yeah. Just same here. I've got so many things I would love to get to, but I have to understand that I only have so much time, so much
mhm,
bandwidth, and some things are just going to have to take a back seat to what
mhm,
other thing, that's just the way it is. But hey, it's, you can plan them out, look
yeah.
forward to them. So,
I've got on my list. I want to do a lot more research on using the right kind of mulch for different types of plants in order to mulch in straw and different things like that to help retain the moisture. So not wasting water, but also then retain the water to help reduce that. So I think both, because we live in a drought. We live in a place that's in a constant drought,
right, right.
and
It's so
it's
frustrating watching the rain go to our south.
yeah.
That's one of the challenges, especially like my grandpa was a farmer and every year was a challenge. One year they got wiped out by the white harvest, which is basically they had a monster hailstorm a week before harvest. You know how heartbreaking that must be? We are at the mercy of the weather, but there are things that we can do to mitigate, like water, mulch, be very mindful of what we plant, like trees and plants that can survive this climate and just do the best we can. and just understand, hey, not everything's gonna live. So,
Yeah. I'm sure, speaking of living, well, this is
mhm.
maybe a not very happy subject. So, I have this new puppy. I'm seeing a bunch of little baby birds. Are you seeing a lot of birds out at your place?
Not yet,
We are
no.
getting tons of birds, and there's a lot of little small adolescent or baby birds, um,
Hmm.
which I think is kind of normal. It's the ones that we normally see. But my little puppy, we took him for a walk the other day, and he got into some weeds and grabbed a hold of a bird, had one of the
Uh-huh.
baby birds. We got it out. My granddaughter was with me. She wanted to save the bird, so we were going to try to save the bird, but I have a feeling probably did not survive. It might have been injured already,
Hmm.
but anyway, just circle of life, I mean,
Yeah.
but this
Oh, I
this
know.
dog is like, what are you going after? And it was in the
Hmm.
ground, so you don't expect, oh, bird. Yeah.
Right.
He
Yeah.
got it and
Yeah, my cats, I mean, we try to keep them on a pretty tight leash when
mhm.
it's nesting season and you have
Mhm.
babies on the ground and stuff, especially around here where you have
Mhm.
meadowlarks and huns and all these babies that are
Mhm.
on the ground.
Yeah.
So,
It just
but
seems early. It seems a little
yeah.
early for those
Uh-huh.
for those birds. I know that we
Uh-huh.
get like, we'll get like chickadees and
Yeah.
those.
That does
They're
seem
kind of,
early.
it seems pretty early to have baby birds that are nesting
Mm-hmm.
in the ground. So I don't know. Again, maybe it was injured, and so
Yeah,
that's why it was
maybe.
there. But it
Mm-hmm.
was obviously just it was a small baby. So I don't know. The weather, I think it's confusing everybody,
It is.
including the insects. Did you
Mm-hmm.
say, I know you told me earlier, I don't remember if we said it in this podcast, but you saw some grasshoppers or something?
Yeah, it was just a little tiny grasshopper. I was out in the
Oh, wow.
orchard and it jumped on this lid that it's like, why are you like
Why are you
here
here?
now? Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, you're going to be in for a bad time because
Yeah.
it's going to be really, really cold and you can't, I don't think they can survive it, which is
Yeah.
concerning because birds eat those insects. And if they're not
Right.
alive when the birds are here, wow, that's concerning.
Well, I have been successfully keeping away from just cleaning out all the beds and getting
Hmm.
rid of all of the vegetation because I think exactly that. Once you start
Yeah.
doing that, they're going to all start emerging
Hmm.
and then they're going to get dumped on by a big snowstorm. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Actually, maybe we're happy if there's a big snowstorm, but I don't know. It's really I'm looking forward to. I'm getting excited about springtime. I don't know about you.
Me too.
Excited about
Yeah,
springtime, getting out there, doing our planting and all of that. But man, this weather is really making me nervous.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm not
Who
even sure
knows?
why I'm nervous other than the fact that it's just not the way it's supposed to be and I just am.
Yes, that's it exactly. Like this is so unusual.
Mhm.
So hopefully it goes back to normal next year.
Mhm.
Who knows? We'll find out.
So other than that, how are things going? Are you feeling pretty good about your start of the new year and where you're going?
Well, since I can be outside, I
Mhm.
do feel better. I
Mhm.
love it. I just went down by the creek the other day, just sat there and breathed, you know? It's
That's
just
nice.
nice. Yeah.
Nice to be
So,
outside for sure.
mhm.
All right.
Well, spring is on its way, even if we have a little bit of cold weather still between us and that. But we are looking forward to being outside, planting the gardens, and just feeling better because we can be outside in our gardens.
That's right.
Hmm.
Back to our happy place of digging
Yep.
around and enjoying just the outdoors and less people.
Hmm. Just being
Just
outside in
being
nature.
outside with nature. Yeah.
Hmm.
And so, with that, thank you for listening. This is Get Off My Lawn. My name's Shelly Partis.
And I'm Ann Reber. We'll talk to you soon.
Yep. Take care.
Bare hands in the soil, skirt hem catching dew, laughter like a brook running straight through you. Kettle on a stone, Steam curls in the breeze. Three women round the roses talking